My father died in a fire while trying to save the daughter of his white moonlight. I rushed to the hospital overnight, and when I saw him for the first time, I couldn't suppress the smile on my face. A staff member kindly reminded me, "Please keep your laughter down." However, after receiving my father's ashes, I laughed even louder. "My dear father, if you had to go, then so be it. But why didn't you leave a will, leaving me with billions in inheritance? You're too kind." My father died saving Songji. When I heard the news, I rushed to the hospital overnight. He lay on the bed in the morgue, his face burned beyond recognition, with not a single patch of skin left on his entire body. I really couldn't hold back when I saw that. The staff member beside me couldn't stand it anymore and nudged my arm to remind me, "Keep your laughter down." I apologized with my words, but when I went to get the death certificate, I was practically skipping. As soon as the death certificate was ready, I hurriedly took my father to be cremated. While waiting for the ashes, I contacted his lawyer and confirmed that Dad had not made a will. Dad had no wife, no illegitimate children, and I was the only one listed on the household register. The inheritance naturally belonged to me alone. I quickly went through the process of transferring ownership of those assets: the large villa in the west of the city, the company under my name, the luxury cars in the garage, and the house my father lent to Songji to live in. I didn't like the idea of my house being occupied by something dirty, so on a sunny afternoon, I went to her place and asked her to move out. To my surprise, when Songji saw me, she didn't even open the door and directly called the police. After the police officers arrived, the door instantly opened. Songji jumped out from inside, pointed at me, and said, "It's her, officer. She trespassed into my home." I quickly explained, "Officer, please don't listen to her nonsense. I only knocked on the door, I didn't force my way in. You call that knocking? You were about to break my door down." Songji grabbed one of the officers by the arm, her hand still pointing at me. "Officer, please take her away." The police officer's expression was rather complicated. He shook off Songji's hand and looked at me. "What's wrong with you?" I put on an innocent face. "I just knocked on the door." "Does that count as trespassing?" "This isn't trespassing. To be more serious, this is called provoking trouble." After hearing his words, Songji's face was full of smugness. "Uncle Officer, but this house is mine. Is it illegal to knock on my own door?" I directly took out the property certificate and ID card from my bag to show them. One of the police officers took the documents, carefully compared them to my face, and confirmed that this was indeed my house. He frowned and asked, "If this is your home, why don't you have the keys?" I immediately pouted and said, "It's because someone is occupying my house and refusing to leave." "Uncle Officer, don't you think this counts as encroaching on someone else's property?" Songji jumped out. "What do you mean your house? This is clearly Uncle Jiang's house." "Just wait. I'll call Uncle Jiang right now and have him come deal with you." In front of several people, Songji made several consecutive calls to her father. After none of them were answered, she clearly started to panic. "Stop calling." I chuckled twice. "You won't get through. Don't get too proud. Suyu, Uncle Jiang must be busy." I laughed even more happily. "Yeah, busy being reborn." Songji's expression changed, and her voice turned sharp. "Suyu, what do you mean? Uncle Jiang is your own father, and you're actually cursing him to die. Do you believe I'll tell Uncle Jiang about this? He'll definitely break your legs. I'm so scared. But unfortunately, he won't be able to hear your complaints anymore." I crossed my arms, looking completely indifferent. "Songji, have you forgotten? A couple of days ago, there was a fire at your school. My dad happened to be there to bring you something. When he heard your classroom was on fire, he rushed in to save you. But he couldn't find you, and he ended up dying in the fire." I sighed again and said, "What a pity. My dad treated you as more important than his own daughter. And you didn't even get to see him before he passed away. What you said isn't true. You're cursing Uncle Jiang." Songji froze for a few seconds, then became agitated and even tried to hit me. I quickly hid behind the police officer beside me. "Help! Murder! Officer, please arrest her." After watching the commotion until now, the police officers also understood what kind of situation this was. One of them restrained Songji and separated the two of us far apart. They advised Songji to calm down and also gave me a verbal warning. Even an honest official finds it hard to settle a family quarrel, and they both knew they couldn't get too involved. Finally, they took us to the police station to make a statement, and when they let us go, I heard one of them say to Songji, "Since the house belongs to someone else, you shouldn't be so aggressive. If you want to continue living there, speak to them properly. If you don't want to stay, then move out quickly." I immediately felt a sense of respect for this police officer and couldn't wait to get a commendation banner to present to him. As soon as they stepped out of the police station, Songji's mother, Lin Jin, rushed over. She saw me and didn't forget to put on a hypocritical smile. "Xiaoyu, when did you come back? Why didn't you tell Mom? Your dad and I could have picked you up." "Stop right there, Aunt Lin. Let's not rush into claiming family ties. I came back this time to collect my dad's body." "Oh, right." I covered my mouth and laughed twice. "Your wedding with my dad is in a week, right? Better notify the relatives quickly. Wouldn't want the groom to be missing and end up holding the ceremony alone. That would be a joke." Hearing this, Lin Jin's fake expression finally cracked. She sneered, "Xiaoyu, no matter how much you dislike me, you shouldn't curse your dad. He's been pretty good to you. It's really good. Killed my mom over a first love. For someone who isn't even considered an adopted daughter, he directly kicked me out of the house. How could there be such a wonderful father in this world?" "Aunt Lin, you don't believe me," I pouted. "Well, that makes sense. After all, Aunt Lin and my dad haven't even registered their marriage yet. The hospital wouldn't notify you as a family member, so it falls on me, a junior, to handle such a major life event for the first time." I took my father's death certificate out of my bag and threw it right in front of the mother and daughter. Lin Jin's face instantly turned ashen, and she could barely stand, barely supported by Songji. "Songji," I said, looking at her, "I'm going to sell the house you're living in. You have 1 week to move out. Or I'll call the police." "Oh, Auntie Lin, the villa you're living in also needs to be vacated, but since you've lived there for so many years, you must have accumulated quite a lot of belongings. Don't worry, I'll help you find a moving company when the time comes. As for the jewelry and other things my father gave you, there's no need to return them. Consider it compensation for all these years you've stayed by my father's side without any official status." After saying this, I put on my sunglasses and left without a trace of emotion. I only heard Songji let out a scream as Lin Jin fainted and collapsed on the ground. The next day, I went to the bank again. My dad is just too cautious in life. He never keeps any valuable items at home, always locking them up in a bank-safe deposit box. If he had kept them in his own villa, Lin Jin would have already transferred these things away, and there's no way they would have ended up with me to inherit. Looking at those large gold bars and small antiques, I was so overjoyed I couldn't stop grinning. After finishing the inventory, I went through the procedures, and all these items were transferred to my name. On this joyful day, I headed straight to a 6-star hotel and enjoyed a luxurious lunch. After eating and drinking to my heart's content, I was ready to go home for a beauty nap. But as soon as I drove into the villa area, I was stopped by a security guard. The security guard quietly pulled me aside and whispered to me, "Miss Su, your little 3 aunt is here." Little 3 aunt, I thought about it carefully before realizing he was referring to Lin Jin. That year, my father kicked my seriously ill self out of the villa for her sake. The incident became known throughout the entire neighborhood, and many people came to criticize Lin Jin at that time. So after my mother passed away, the 2 of them never lived here. They even brought an old lady, said to be your aunt. I didn't want to let them in at first, but the team leader, it must be that Lin Jin offered some kind of benefit. I smiled and said to him, "Thank you, security brother. I understand." I saw them angrily entering the code and going in. "Be careful." The security guard was very concerned about my safety. I thanked him again, and as I glanced over, I spotted his electric baton, and an idea immediately came to mind. I said to the person in front of me, "Brother security, can I buy this electric baton from you?" Before entering, I first checked the surveillance footage. I saw my aunt, Lin Jin, and Songji sitting in the living room. My aunt was looking around at the decorations in my living room and casually slipped a small antique into her bag. I saved this segment of the surveillance footage. Then, after composing myself, I walked to the door, entered the passcode, and rushed in with an electric baton raised. "Ah, there's a thief, you filthy thief. You filthy thief, I'll beat you to death." With my eyes closed, I swung the electric baton wildly. I only heard a few screams, and finally, my aunt's sharp voice, "Suyu, are you doing this on purpose? Look closely at who I am." I hit her 2 more times before stopping. Feigning surprise, I said, "Aunt, what are you doing here?" My aunt's face was covered in red marks, with some areas already turning blue. She glared at me furiously. "Suyu, you little wretch, how dare you hit your elder? You'll be punished by the heavens for this." I continued to play innocent. "Auntie, your words are too harsh. You didn't even let me know you were coming. So when I saw someone in the living room, I naturally thought it was a burglar. After all, my house has so many antiques, if one went missing, I might not even notice." Hearing this, Auntie moved the bag in her hand further behind her. She coughed and cleared her throat. "Suyu, your father hasn't been dead for long. And you already had him cremated. Why didn't you inform the elders?" "Elders, if I remember correctly, my grandmother has already passed away. Who else in the family counts as an elder?" "Xiaoye, no matter what, Sister Jiang is your father's sister, your own aunt. It's not appropriate for you to speak like that," Lin Jin chimed in, putting on the airs of an elder. "Even if we don't share the same parents, does that make her any less of a relative?" I retorted sarcastically. "My biological grandfather passed away early, and my biological grandmother remarried, bringing my father along. Aunt is the first daughter of my step-grandfather, born to him and another woman, so we are not related by blood at all." "Suyu," Auntie was furious. And Lin Jin beside her patted her shoulder, reminding her to get to the point. Auntie calmed down a bit and put on an expression that suggested she wouldn't stoop to my level. "Your father is dead. And there needs to be someone fair in the family. I heard you've taken all the property for yourself. That's not right. You need to share the money with your Aunt Jiang. Why break up?" I sneered. "Aunt Jiang didn't get a marriage certificate with my dad, did she?" I had already found out from my dad's lawyer. Aunt Jiang and my dad originally planned to get their marriage certificate the day before the wedding. "What a pity, but she's already about to marry your dad," said the aunt. "But they haven't married yet, have they? The state doesn't even recognize it, so why should I share?" Perhaps angered by my words, the aunt's face instantly turned pale. Lin Jin pretended to be the good person on the side. "Xiaoyu, it's not that Auntie insists on fighting for this inheritance, but mainly because I currently have." She touched her stomach, hesitating to speak. I said to her, "If you have something to say, just say it." Songji immediately stepped forward. "Suyu, you're like a dog, biting anyone you see. Can't you tell? My mom is pregnant with your dad's child. Even if you don't share the inheritance with my mom, this child still has the right to inherit." I sneered. "Who can prove this is my dad's child?" My aunt interrupted. "I can testify, Suyu. We're only treating you like a child because we don't want to make things too ugly. Otherwise, we would have sued you long ago." I laughed even louder. "Then go ahead and sue me, madwoman, madwoman." My aunt grabbed Lin Jin's hand and started walking out. "I told you, there's no reasoning with this lowlife. Let's go find a lawyer." The 3 of them walked out. I said, "Wait a moment." Aunt turned around, regretting it. "Songji, Aunt Lin, let me remind you again, you have to move out the day after tomorrow, or I'll just change the locks directly. Then where are you going to have us live?" Songji was furious. "What does that have to do with me, if it really comes to it? Go live with your own father." The 3 of them, my aunt and the others, came with overwhelming force and left in a huff. Each of them had injuries on their faces. Seeing them like that, I laughed so hard I could barely stand up straight. Within 2 days, I received a lawyer's letter. I immediately forwarded it to my lawyer and asked him to handle the matter. 2 days later, my lawyer informed me that the other party's attorney wanted to meet with us to resolve the matter privately. I'm afraid they have also realized the difficulty of this case. After all, my father has turned into a pile of ashes. So there's simply no way to prove that the child in Lin Jin's belly is my father's. As for collateral relatives, my biological grandfather and grandmother have long passed away. All that's left are a pile of bones. How can a paternity test be done? On a beautiful and sunny afternoon, I arrived punctually at my lawyer's office. My aunt and Lin Jin had arrived early. Lin Jin said, "This child is mine and Jiang Hai's." I replied with a cold expression, "Where's the evidence?" The opposing lawyer pulled out a document from his briefcase. "This is our paternity test report." I picked up that piece of paper and froze instantly. Lin Jin stroked her belly with a look of smug satisfaction. "Your dad has lived with me for so long. He must have left some hair or stubble around the house. That's more than enough for a paternity test." My aunt looked even more pleased with herself. "Your Aunt Lin is carrying a boy, your own brother. Besides, you haven't gone by the Jiang surname for a long time. Getting half of the inheritance is already a windfall for you." I frowned and stared at the paper for a long time before suddenly throwing my head back and laughing. "Aunt Lin, if I had done something like that, I would be too ashamed to mention it. I never expected you to actually produce an appraisal report." Lin Jin's face instantly turned pale. What do you mean? Didn't my father ever tell you that he's infertile?" I took a piece of paper out of my bag and slapped it directly onto the table. It was my father's medical record from 20 years ago. When he had a vasectomy, back when my mother was pregnant with me, she often dreamed that my father was cheating on her. She was constantly suspicious and would wake up crying every day. My father felt sorry for her and, without a word, went to the hospital to get a vasectomy. Lin Jin's face turned pale. But her lawyer remained rational. "Even after a vasectomy, it can be reversed. Reversal also requires surgery, right? Do you have proof that my father underwent this procedure?" They looked at each other, clearly unprepared. I continued, "My dad really loved my mom back then. But then he met Aunt Lin. Speaking of which, Aunt Lin is quite cunning. How did she manage to get pregnant by someone who had already had a vasectomy? It's not impossible that this child isn't my brother. Especially since it's well known that Aunt Lin was the other woman. Suyu, you have no shame." Lin Jin slammed the table and stood up, her elegance completely gone. "Your father and I truly loved each other. We were together from the very beginning. Your mother was the other woman." Hearing her insult my mother, the smile instantly vanished from my face. I stood up as well. "Lin Jin, do you think I don't know about your dirty little secret? In the beginning, you dumped my dad because you thought he was poor. Later, when my dad met my mom, it was my grandfather who gave him his first investment. After my dad made it, you suddenly showed up, claiming to be his true love. If it weren't for my mom, Jiang Hai would be nothing but a damn dung beetle." As I spoke, my eyes became blurred with tears. Our family of 3 was once very happy. But then one winter, Lin Jin showed up with Songji. From that day on, my mom lost her husband. I don't have a father either. My father's heart has always been with Lin Jin. Whenever Lin Jin calls, he runs to her like a dog running to its owner. Later, my mother developed uremia, and Jiang Hai wanted to divorce her. Feeling guilty, Jiang Hai decided to donate one of his kidneys to her. On the day of the surgery, Lin Jin jumped into the sea. When my father heard about it, he immediately went to find her. That same day, my mother passed away. My mother had a chance to survive. If Dad hadn't wanted to donate from the beginning, I could have given my kidney to Mom. But everything had already been settled, and Lin Jin chose to jump into the sea that day. It's not that she didn't know the importance of that day. After that incident, I had a big argument with my dad. The next day, Lin Jin and Songji moved into another villa owned by Jiang Hai. I was furious and went to confront them. But Songji accused me of stealing her things. Jiang Hai didn't believe me and insisted that I apologize to Songji. In a fit of anger, I left that home. I went straight to the police station and changed my name. At this point in my recollection, I wiped away my tears, put on my sunglasses again, and transformed back into that emotionless rich woman. If you can't prove that this bastard in your belly is my father's child, then there's no need for us to continue this conversation. We can talk about the inheritance once you find the proof of my father's surgery. I picked up my bag and left without a moment's hesitation. As if she could ever find that proof. I've already found out that Jiang Hai never actually had the vasectomy. He regretted it as soon as he got on the operating table. This medical record is a fake one he had someone create for him. If they were to take this to court, I'm not sure I'd have the courage to present it. I thought that after this incident, Lin Jin, and my aunt would finally calm down. Who knew that the very next day, my aunt brought a group of people to my house, demanding that I repay the money. I had just woken up and was still in a bad mood. What money? Your father borrowed 100,000 yuan from our family back then and never paid it back. Now that he's dead, you should return it to us. My aunt directly took out a yellowed piece of paper and slapped it on the table. I glanced down and saw that it was indeed an IOU, with my father's signature and fingerprint on it. Dated 20 years ago. I know about this debt. At that time, my father had just started his business and the company was facing difficulties, so he was borrowing money from everywhere. At that time, I borrowed from my aunt, and she was initially unwilling to lend the money. My father said he would borrow 10,000 and repay 20,000, so she gave him 50,000 yuan, and the IOU stated 100,000. Later, when my father overcame the difficulties and went to repay the money, my aunt refused to take it and instead asked him to buy a house for her family. Over the past 20 years, my aunt has repeatedly brought up the 50,000 yuan. And it's unclear how many benefits she has gained from my father. How dare you still have the nerve to come here and ask for it now? I laughed and said, Auntie, is your memory failing, or is mine? Wasn't that money already paid back to your family? Wasn't the house your family used to live in paid for by my dad? My aunt shamelessly replied, that house was a gift from your dad to us. Not a repayment of the money. One thing has nothing to do with the other. You can't deny this IOU, can you? I won't deny the IOU. It's 100,000. Right, I'll transfer it to you right now. Can the 100,000 from 20 years ago be the same as today's 100,000? Now you have to give me at least. My aunt calculated and gestured a 1 million. You really dare to ask? I put away my phone and smiled at her. I can give you 1 million. But I'm afraid you won't have time to spend it. You're cursing me. It wasn't enough that you brought bad luck to your own parents, and now you want to bring it to me. Too bad. I have a tough fate. I sneered, directly asked for her bank account number, and transferred 1 million to her on the spot. As soon as the money arrived, my aunt immediately beamed with joy. She turned around, and before she and the others had even left the villa, I picked up the phone and called the police. Hello? Is this 110? Someone has broken in and robbed the house. Are you going to do something about it? Upon hearing this, my aunt immediately came back to snatch my phone. You little bastard, you actually dared to call the police. I've been practicing taekwondo since I was a child. So dealing with a middle-aged woman is quite simple. Then I said to the people behind me, Uncles, aren't you leaving? If you don't go now, you'll become accomplices. They looked at each other and instantly left in tacit agreement. Seeing that there was no one behind her, my aunt wasn't as aggressive as before. Xiaoye, we're all family. What's all this talk about robbery? I'll give the money back to you right now. The money, which hadn't even been in her account for 10 minutes, was back in my hands. Auntie, if you had just done this earlier, it would have been fine. There's nothing that can't be discussed properly. I've counted enough zeros and put my phone away again. Yes, yes, yes. So what about when the police arrive later? Don't worry. I patted my aunt's shoulder and gave her a little look. Within 10 minutes, the police arrived. Officer, this is a misunderstanding. My aunt stepped forward first to smooth things over. My niece and I were just joking around. The two police officers looked at me. I said, a misunderstanding. It's not robbery, it's theft. I directly pulled up the surveillance video of my aunt stealing my small antique and handed it over to the police. My aunt's face instantly turned pale, and she came straight over to explain it to me. I can give it back to you. I just thought this little thing was dirty, so I took it home to wash it. I waved my little hand. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. On the day my aunt's case was filed, I went back to my hometown and set off 10 strings of firecrackers in a row. I also bought candy for many children. Looking even happier than during the New Year, I gave gifts to everyone in the village who came to share the joy with me that day. Not much. 1 pig, 2 bottles of wine. Unexpectedly, someone posted my appearance from that day online and even added a 500-word essay to it. The general content was that I caused my own father's death, sent my aunt to prison, and in order to monopolize the family fortune, refused to acknowledge my stepmother and biological brother, They portrayed me as a wicked woman who would stop at nothing for money, even denying her own family ties. This video was quickly reposted by dozens of self-media accounts, and my name instantly became a trending topic. The comments were filled with people calling me cold-blooded and a murderer. I watched all this with great amusement. There was no doubt, this was definitely Songji's doing. She is currently studying at the School of Media. And her class teacher is a very famous internet celebrity who even made it to the hot search list last year. The assignment given to the students was to create their own social media accounts, at that time, because of her good looks. Songji often appeared in her classmates' videos and was hailed as the #1 pure campus belle. 2/3 of the self-media accounts that reposted the content belonged to Songji's classmates. As soon as my lawyer saw that there was work to be done, he called and asked if I wanted to file a lawsuit. I said to him, "No need, let the bullet fly for a while." After waiting another 2 days, I received a threatening package. I kept these as evidence and handed them directly to my lawyer. Within half a day, Songji's classmates backed down, one by one. They issued apology statements, and the original account quickly deleted the video. Despite this, many people still criticized me. They accused me of using money to suppress the trending topics, saying I had no humanity. That same night, a prominent influencer revealed that they were my friend and that the entire situation was not at all what was being spread online. Lin Jin was directly exposed, how she interfered with my parents' relationship, how she used her daughter to play the victim, and how Songji took over what wasn't rightfully hers. They said that after I was kicked out of the house, my life was miserable. Not only did I have to work to pay for my tuition, but I also had to scavenge for trash at the dump from time to time. Public opinion suddenly reversed, and many of Songji's classmates came forward with revelations, Songji's past despicable actions. Songji instantly went from being the pure campus belle to a rat scurrying across the street that everyone shouts to beat, and right at this moment, I sent a lawyer's letter to sue Songji for spreading rumors and defaming me. The next day, Lin Jin came to my door. At this point, Lin Jin's belly was already quite large, and as soon as she saw me, she started apologizing. "Xiaoyu, it was wrong of Gigi to do that, but she didn't mean it. She's still young and doesn't understand the things that happened in the past, so she was just talking nonsense. I didn't take it seriously. 21 is still young. She's old enough to have children." Lin Jin's expression changed, looking even more pitiful. "Xiaoyu, then tell me, what do you want me to do? How can I make you feel better?" I'm all too familiar with that expression of hers. Every time she made that face before, Dad would abandon us. The thought of all the suffering my mother endured made my expression twist with anger. "If you want me to let this go, fine. Go to my mother's grave, kowtow 3 times, and admit you were wrong. Then I'll drop the lawsuit." Lin Jin's face turned ashen. "Xiaoyu, if you're not willing, then forget it." Lin Jin, after all, couldn't bear to see Songji suffer and actually agreed to the matter on the spot. We agreed to meet 3 days later at my mother's tombstone. As a result, 3 days later, as soon as I stepped out, I was dragged into the bushes by 2 tall, burly guys and beaten up. After the guy hit me, he threatened me by saying, "If you bother Songji again, it won't just be a beating next time." After they left, I crawled out of the bushes. I found my phone and immediately called the police. Songji is an idiot, and the people around her aren't smart either. Please, this is a high-end villa area, not to mention the bushes. There are even surveillance cameras installed at the bottom of the swimming pool. While I was lying in the hospital getting treated, the police gave me an update. They said those 2 male college students were also spineless. They confessed after just a few words. They do know Songji, but Songji didn't ask them to do it. Songji went to them crying, and they thought I was too wicked, so they took it upon themselves to uphold justice. What a way to uphold justice. They ended up getting themselves in trouble. I firmly refused to settle. While I was in the hospital, the families of these 2 people kept coming to see me. They brought gifts and apologized to me, just as their children had been arrogant when they hit me. Their families were equally humble. "Miss Sue, we hope you can be magnanimous and forgive our children. Once they are released, they can even kneel and apologize to you." I couldn't possibly accept that. I cried. talking about how innocent the first was and how bad Songji was if I dropped the charges. I was afraid they might be incited by Songji to come hit me again. Both families are sensible people and immediately stopped causing trouble with me. They went directly to find Songji and Lin Jin. Now they don't even dare to leave their homes, the lawyer told me. As soon as they step out, they get scolded. Their families are quite formidable. Of course they are formidable. These are middle-aged women who have been through countless battles. Their output is nothing like Lin Jin, who usually pretends to be weak and delicate. I can just imagine Lin Jin, timid and trying to maintain her image, probably clutching her stomach while crying. The lawyer asked me if I still wanted to appeal against Songji. I said, of course, I can't just take this beating for nothing. In the end, those 2 male college students were forced to apologize to me. I also managed to get some compensation, not much, just over 100,000, for an ordinary family. This is already a heavy blow. After that, Lin Jin kept calling me repeatedly, probably still hoping to discuss dropping the lawsuit. I finally blocked her number. I could even guess the general course of events. Lin Jin had agreed to my request but then backed out at the last minute and told Songji about it, which is why Songji had someone beat me up. I don't dare make any more promises casually. What if they beat me up again? It was already 5 months later when I saw Lin Jin again. At that time, I had already returned to the city where I attended university. Just after class ended, I received a call from my academic advisor. She said there was a woman claiming to be my aunt waiting for me at the gate. As soon as I reached the entrance, I saw Lin Jin. The moment she saw me, she fell to her knees with a thud. Xiaoye, I beg you, please save your brother. Many people around us were looking in our direction. But I didn't feel the slightest bit embarrassed and just let her kneel there. Lin Jin grabbed my hand and cried desperately, please save him. Your brother was born with a heart condition and needs surgery at a major hospital. But I don't have that much money. He really is your father's child, a descendant of the Jiang family. I'm begging you. Lin Jin had no education, no work experience, and had always relied on men to support her. At first, she relied on her ex-husband. Later, when she heard that my father had become successful, she found some excuse to dump that man and came back to my father, after my father passed away. Although all the property was left to me, the things he had bought for her and the money he had transferred to her amounted to nearly 2 million. Her ex-husband also left her a house. This already exceeds the living standards of the vast majority of people. Logically speaking, as long as one is frugal, they could live quite comfortably for the rest of their life. However, it is easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance back to frugality. Songji was used to living like a little princess, accustomed to a life of buying whatever she wanted without a second thought. She found it hard to accept, even temporarily, having to cook for herself, going out without a driver, and only being able to afford bags that cost a few thousand yuan, the kind ordinary people use. What she found most unacceptable was that she had planned to study abroad right after graduating from college, using the money, now. With a lawsuit hanging over her and only a limited amount of money left at home, studying abroad was out of the question. Even a simple trip would require careful consideration. At some point, influenced by someone's instigation, she actually picked up gambling. Within a month, all the money that Lin Jin and her family had saved was lost to gambling. After learning about it, Lin Jin was so angry that it disturbed her fetus, and she was immediately taken to the hospital. The baby was born prematurely, and after birth, it was discovered that there was a problem with the heart, requiring surgery. Moreover, it had to be done at a major hospital, which would require a large sum of medical expenses. Lin Jin simply didn't have that much money. Ever since she fell into hardship, the wealthy ladies she used to socialize with had been avoiding her as much as possible. The so-called connections she had were all expanded through Jiang Hai. Now that Jiang Hai is gone, these people naturally won't pay her any attention. Watching her kneel and beg me like this, I suddenly remembered a few years ago, on the day my mother passed away, I knelt and begged her just like this. I begged her to release my father, so he could complete the surgery with us. At that time, Lin Jin was as cold as a stranger. This is your mother's fate, even if I am my father's child. So what? I laughed. This is his fate. Lin Jin seemed to have thought of something and trembled all over. Xiao Yu, I know you hate me and think I stole your father, but you need to understand, I truly never did anything to hurt your mother. You didn't directly harm my mother, it's true, you only instigated Jiang Hai. The one who hurt my mother was Jiang Hai. I hate him. So it's even more impossible for me to save his son. I lifted my foot and walked out. The child is innocent. Lin Jin cried heart-wrenchingly, crawling over to hug my leg. Didn't you want me to kneel in front of your mother's grave and apologize? I'll go kneel. I only beg you to save my child. I stopped walking and looked down at her. Fine. Go ahead and kneel. I haven't visited Mom in a long time. Ever since she passed away, I haven't been able to accept it. That's why I applied to a university far from home. The moment Lin Jin knelt down, the clear sky turned overcast. And a heavy rain poured down. She knelt before my mother's tombstone, kowtowed 3 times, and repeated 3 times, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Then she looked up at me, her pale lips uttering 2 words, Xiao Yu, I've already transferred the money to your card. From now on, whether this boy lives or dies has nothing to do with me. Lin Jin stood up, thanked me, and then walked away in the rain. I looked at my mother's tombstone and whispered to her, Mom, I've come to see you. It's been so long since my last visit. Do you blame me, Mom? Jiang Hai is dead. He died saving Songji. Please don't be upset just yet. But before he died, he called me. I never expected my father to call me before he died. He probably couldn't escape by then, so he should have called the firefighters. But instead he called me. He said he was wrong and that he was sorry for what he did to me. Maybe when people are about to die, they recall many things. I was about to hang up after hearing those 2 sentences, but then he said he finally saw Songji's true character. He went into the fire to save Songji, but ended up trapped himself. When Songji was rescued, she clearly saw him, and he shouted at her several times. Songji acted as if she didn't hear him and simply walked away. If Songji had turned back to pull him out or done something else at that time, he wouldn't have died. I felt nothing when I heard those words. And only said 4 words to him, then go die. I had long stopped seeing him as my father. From the first time he abandoned me for Songji, I studied so well, yet he never once attended a parent-teacher meeting for me. Songji just mentioned it once, and he eagerly went over there. I also can't forget the days when my mother cried every day, even though she was already seriously ill, just because Lin Jin said she felt disliked. Jiang Hai drove my mother out of the house. I can't imagine how I got through those days. Everything is retribution. I talked a lot with my mom, and after I finished, the weather cleared up. After I came down from the mountain, I sold all the houses and cars that belonged to me in this city. I settled directly in the city where I attended university. Later, I heard that Songji was arrested for selling her body and was directly sentenced, so I couldn't even proceed with the lawsuit against her. The little boy's surgery was unsuccessful, and he died on the operating table. After Lin Jin found out, she completely broke down. Within a few months, having lost everything, she went to find her ex-husband, preparing to repeat the same old trick, wanting to return to his side. But his wife was not someone to be trifled with. She found some people to beat her up. It's unclear whether they hit her in the head. But from then on, Lin Jin became mentally unstable. In June, I successfully graduated. While all my peers were still worrying about whether to find a job or pursue graduate studies, I was successfully recommended for graduate school. At the same time, I started my first company. From then on, every day of my life has been filled with sunshine.